Good evening, everybody. We'll start in a few minutes. We're still missing a couple people for a quorum. So please keep talking amongst yourself. We don't need to have a hush fall over the crowd just yet. All right, good evening, everybody. Noting the hour and the presence of a quorum, I will call the Acton-Boxborough Regional School Committee to order. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so online on ActonTV's YouTube channel, which is found in our agenda. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the ActonTV website. I'll also point out that they are having a bit of trouble this evening on the ActonTV broadcast channel, so we may not be broadcasting live on television, on cable, but we are live in person and live on YouTube. We are starting with something new this evening. You know, as we looked at some of the things that we wanted to improve and change, one of the things that we wanted to bring back was the opportunity to provide some recognition for some of the amazing things that happen around our district at the beginning of our meetings. So this evening, we've got a couple recognitions. I'll let Peter do some of that introduction, but we'll be doing this regularly. Every other meeting, we'll have an opportunity to recognize a group in and around our community, our school community. So Peter, take it away.
Great, thank you, Adam. So just for a little more background, once a month, we're going to be starting our school committee meetings with a recognition of excellence and great things happening across the district. So we have a broad view of what excellence looks like in our schools, and we're just really excited to be able to share some of that with you tonight. We have three groups that we're going to recognize tonight. I want to start by welcoming Chris Baird and Cesar Gardi, who teach at Blanchard Elementary School in the band program, and you're both welcome to come up to the microphone. And I think we have three of our students from Blanchard as well, Nathaniel, Ewan, and Greta. So you're welcome to join us, and if I pronounced anyone's name wrong, I am deeply sorry and apologize. And if I missed someone, Chris, please fill in the blanks when you get to speak in a second. But I wanted to welcome Chris and Cesar from Blanchard. I think aside from just being accompanied by amazing students, one of the things that's amazing about the Blanchard Concert Band is last spring they got their 14th consecutive gold medal at the Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association Annual Spring Festival. It's rare that groups achieve that status once, but to be able to do that for 14 years in a row is just such a tremendous stretch of excellence that we wanted to bring them up, allow them to tell you, a little bit about their program briefly, and do a little bit of recognition for all of the great work that happens. I know it always comes down to students, but the two of you are just such amazing teachers as well. Thank you for all you do, and thank you to all of the families who provide all the support for your group. So, Chris, do you want to take it away?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Light, for inviting us. We're honored to be here, and thanks for all the support from the school committee through the years of the band program and the music programs at Blanchard, and for all the administrators that have helped us through the years, and including Mr. Reed, who's here tonight. He's actually hired me to be band director decades ago, so thank you for coming. And also here is Mr. Gardy, our wonderful percussion director, and takes care of all things technology, and he's been volunteering as percussion director and technology person for almost 30 years. So thank you, Mr. Gardy, for your extraordinary contributions. And we have people representing the past, present, and future of the Blanchard Concert Band / Advanced Band. Here is Nathaniel Bartley, a 7th grader now at R.J. Gray, who played in the band for 3 years, percussion, and also played piano in the jazz band and baritone horn in the chamber music group. So Nathaniel, and then we have representing the future of the group. She's going to have her first rehearsal a week from tomorrow with the concert band, is Greta Schmidt, and she plays wonderful trumpet. And also from the past, we have Owen Lang, a 7th grader, who played great trumpet for us for 3 years. Representing the present students in the group is Eowyn Dowdy, who plays wonderful trombone, and she's a 6th grader now in the band. And also representing the current students is Oliver Weir, tuba player, wonderful low brass player, and representing the past, Rosie here. Rosie, where's Rosie? Oh, here she is. Rosie Jing. And then we also have Jane, who is a current member of the group playing flute. So thank you all for, they're the ones that make the music. So, but just very briefly, I have some comments. Our goal is always to make great music with the Blanchard bands, and we've been rewarded by our success at the MICCA Festival for many years. We strive to interpret the ideas of the composer as best we can. At MICCA, we are adjudicated by well-known college and high school band directors from around the country who use a rubric to evaluate us on different musical things: intonation, rhythm, tempo, style, and phrasing. And they make recorded comments while we're playing that we listen to at subsequent rehearsals to help us get to the next level of music making. I always feel there are 3 steps to the MICCA Festival: our preparation, and then the performance, and then after that, we listen to these recorded comments, and right after the performance, we have a clinic with one of the judges who gives us feedback on how we can improve. And earning a gold medal gets you an invitation to the Gold Medal Showcase concert, where through the years we have played at Symphony Hall in Boston 5 times, Mechanics Hall in Worcester 8 times, and the Groton Hill Music Center Concert Hall 2 times. Making great music on a world-class concert stage is what being a performing artist is all about. I'm immensely proud of all the young musicians I have had the privilege of working with for always reaching their goal. Music can provide them with a lifetime of enjoyment, makes them feel good about themselves, and feeds their musical soul. So congratulations to all you for representing the bands through all the years, and nice work. Great job.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Cease. I'm really pleased to be able to present you with this certificate awarded to the Blanchard Elementary Concert Band for their 14th consecutive gold medal at MICCA. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, and thank you so much for doing this. I know Mr. Baird and I have actually intersected multiple times in our career. I'm a former professional musician. I say former because I had to make life trade-offs, but it's always great to see young musicians kind of coming up through the ranks. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
So next, I want to welcome our former head coach of the boys track team, DJ Brock, up, as well as our new athletic director, Jim Scanlon, from the ABRHS boys track program. So last winter and spring, the boys track program extended a long history of excellence and won the Division I state championship. That's an incredible accomplishment and reflects years of tireless work, on the part of all of our student athletes that you see before us, as well as those who might not be here. Accomplishments like that are not, season-long endeavors. These are years and years of hard work that pay off in the end. So, DJ or Jim, I don't know if you want to say a few words, but obviously, we're recognizing outstanding coaching, outstanding athleticism, great student athletes, and all the support that your families have given you. So, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say thank you for the support that you guys have given us for the last few years. I've been coaching here since 2017. I was under Brian Crossman, who was also my coach. I graduated from AB in 2008, and we won our first DCL championship with him. So without him, I want to give him a shout out, because without him, I wouldn't be where I am right now. We also won the D1 state championship indoors last year as well. So we were really lucky to have a fantastic group of guys who are still here today that started working hard in the fall and just kept on pushing themselves, overcoming adversity, getting good grades too, which was super important for all of us. And we were able to win the D1 Relay State Championship Indoor, the DCL Championship Indoor, and the D1 State Championship Indoor. Then we moved to Outdoor, won the DCL Championship and the D1 State Championship as well. So going 5 for 6 when it comes to big trophies was a goal that we all had, and they all pushed themselves. They made coaching amazing for me every single day. Can't say enough about these guys, and we are very, very proud of you guys for how you have represented this town and yourselves and your families every single day on the track and off the track as well. So thank you guys for everything that you've done.
Congratulations, guys. DJ, I'm happy to present this award to the boys track and field state champions from last year. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you for coming out tonight. Last, I would love to welcome up to the microphone Faith Yager, who is one of our high school educators. Faith teaches in our ODP PACE program and works in the extended school year program for students. Each summer, the students in the program continue their learning at various settings throughout the community, and they practice communication skills by creating a video log of their experiences over the summer in the community. I just want to thank all of the program teachers, as well as our high school video production teacher, Dan Drinkwater, for making this happen every year. I'm going to let Faith talk a little bit about the program, and then she will introduce us to a video segment of some of our students' work.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So I'm a special educator at the high school in one of our specialized programs in the PACE program. I have been involved in the ODP as well. And those programs for students with diverse learning needs. And a big part of those programs are getting the students out in the community, working on some of the life skills as well as vocational skills. In my program, students have the opportunity to go to various job sites and hone in those skills. But in terms of the ESY, the Extended School Year Program, students come in to work on skills to prevent regression that might happen over the summer months. And a typical day looks like the students coming in, maybe getting some breakfast, and then we go to the fitness center, or we play a sports game outside. Then we work on reading, writing, communication skills, and math. And I think a highlight of the day for students is working with Mr. Drinkwater and going to the TV and radio studio to record some of the trips that are taken over the summer. That's another big part. Once a week, the students are able to access local community trips, mostly educational, some fun. And as you'll see in the video clip that we're getting ready to show, you can take a look at that.
Hello and welcome to the ODP and PACE Summer News Show Season 3. I'm Owen Ressler. Our first trip of the summer was to Animal Adventures in Bolton. There were many interesting animals to see. Everyone had a great time. Let's take a look at that, shall we?
Welcome to Animal Adventures in Bolton. This is Pernille Gotetti reporting on duty.
In case we didn't know there was an error. Know that you have a superintendent that takes password security seriously and does randomly assigned like 26-digit passwords that are capitals, symbols, everything else. So we're going to try this one more time. See if we can pick up.
Faith, I wanted to present this certificate of recognition to the ODP ESY program. Thank you so much for providing such a great opportunity for our kids. Thank you.
The PACE and ODP programs are absolutely critical programs at the high school for a number of our students. What has always impressed me about the programs is how active and visible they are in the school community. They've done coffee shops on Friday mornings. They are around the school, active in the student body, and it's just so great to be able to recognize that string of excellence that they've had. So thank you so much, Faith, for doing that. And thank you to all of our families and students who came out tonight and staff for this recognition. Much appreciated.
Okay, next item on our agenda is public participation. So per our policy BEDH, members of the public are invited to speak for up to 3 minutes. Public participation will only take place during this time in our meeting. Speakers must be recognized by me before speaking, and as a reminder, the committee does not typically respond to public participation. We will set aside a maximum of 20 minutes this evening for public participation, and I am happy to invite the first speaker to the microphone, which I turned off, so you'll have to turn it back on.
There we go. Is that working?
Yes.
Hi, I know you all know me, but for the folks at home, my name is Mike Balulescu. I'm the president of the Acton-Boxborough Education Association, which is our teachers union. I'm also an RJ Gray teacher and an RJ Gray parent. That's a new one for me. I just wanted to speak briefly about the cell tower that you're going to vote on later this evening and emphasize how important it is that we have good, reliable cell coverage on campus. I know that Peter spoke at a previous meeting about the need for cell coverage for emergencies. I also want to let you know that there are places in the district, particularly at the Boardwalk campus, where cell phone reception is really terrible. In fact, for educators in that building, it's really a dead zone. And cell phone service is not just about convenience. We have educators who are parents, who are caregivers to elderly family members, and to expect teachers to come into work every day and really have no connection with the outside world when they have important responsibilities is a quality of life issue for our educators. So I know that this particular tower may not completely solve the issues at Boardwalk, but this is an important first step. So I want you to know that teachers are enthusiastically behind this because we need to be able to be in contact with our loved ones and take care of responsibilities as we commit ourselves to students during the workday. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello, I am Nova. I'm a freshman at AB Regional High School. Of course, it takes courage to be speaking at a school committee meeting, and I have a few reasonable doubts about how my voice will be heard. Sorry, thank you. Last school year, more than 150 AB students and I sent a petition to Superintendent Light and the AB School Committee. Out of concern with the same issue, I'd like to address tonight the installation of a cell tower on our school campus. Our petition never received any consideration or reply, even though, as per our AB Student Handbook, page 41, students have the right to have their petitions considered and receive a reply. Tonight, we want to be heard and want our concerns to be recognized. Tonight, please do not dismiss us this time. We students are concerned about the risk to our health by you deciding to build a cell tower on our school campus. There are other ways to address boosting cell coverage in emergency situations that do not involve placing a cell tower near our school. One safety concern should not be addressed by creating another. There are no conclusive studies done to affirm that cell towers do not have long-term health risks. Furthermore, cell towers are proven to have a direct health impact on people with EMS, which stands for electromagnetic sensitivity. I wish to ask how the district will actively protect students and staff with EMS when considering a cell tower installation. There is a lack of awareness in our AB community to even know that construction of a cell tower is even being considered. There needs to be transparency and time for community involvement in deciding whether a cell tower will be built on our school campus. The last meeting that presented the information about the possible cell tower being built on our campus was over the summer break at a time that rendered input from students and most AB staff impossible. No vote should take place tonight before the school committee can address all these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Nova.
Hi there. I'm a professor at BU and I teach science, and I'm just very proud of this high school student actually raising this issue. So I said, all right, let me do some research. And
Sorry, could you share your name before you go?
Oh, sorry,
far?
Roger Taylor.
Thank you.
So father of an Acton-Boxborough school student, and we moved here because the schools are so great at Acton, right? So then I decided to do a lit review, and they found that, I can send you the site, but there is evidence for a health risk. It was a meta-analysis done in 2022. So it's not totally conclusive, but about 75% of the studies found that there was a negative health benefit. So I thought, and I looked up some more, and I'm like, oh my God. So this is something I thought I should look into more. And right, it's not conclusive, but it took 40 years for us to conclude that cigarettes are bad for your health. So we can't just brush it under the rug. So I think it would be prudent for us to, or you, to look at the science before making a decision, because I was thinking if I was going to move to Acton, I'm like, oh, they have a cell tower, which is bad for students, and it's near one of the schools. I'm thinking Lexington or Concord or something. So just, yeah, just keep that in mind before you make a decision.
Thank you.
And I can send you research later if you want.
Any other public comment? Thanks, Vikram.
Hi, my name is Thea Suchdev. I am a student at ABRHS, and I was there with Nova when he did the petition, and I actually sat at the same lunch table as him, and I saw the action, and we got a lot of names. We got a lot of fake names as well, but a lot of names as well, mostly real names, and we really did work hard on the petition, and the fact that it wasn't considered was kind of hurtful, because we really did work hard on it, and Nova especially, and Nova again stated a lot of really reasonable facts, and also we thought that maybe a booster could be set in the superintendent's office for better Wi-Fi, as it would cause a lot less health benefits, a lot less health deficits and risks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Novotny. I am here as a concerned AB parent and community member around the possible cell tower being constructed on our school campus. The idea of a cell tower on our school campus was first listed as a possible revenue line item in the draft budget during our school district's deficit talks. Tower Co's presentation lists an amount of $3,000 per month paid to our school district, and this amount is based on Tower Co's profits on the cell tower that we would allow them to construct and lease on our school property. And that would be for a minimum of 10 years. As education budgets dwindle, some schools are forming partnerships with telecom companies to allow use of their land in exchange for some profit. However, many school districts have banned cell towers on school property, and more communities are opposed to cell towers at schools due to radiation exposure. There are numerous studies, as other speakers have mentioned, documenting negative health impact and long-term exposure to cell tower radiation, and much of this information has already been shared with the AB School Committee with no response. The FCC's radio frequency limits have been criticized by hundreds of scientists and have not been updated since 1996. The Environmental Working Group published a landmark study in 2021 concluding that FCC limits should be strengthened by 200 to 400 times to protect children, according to the current risk assessments. The last school committee meeting on August 22nd spoke about the need to coordinate responses to emergencies, and you've echoed that. That could arise, and hope that placing a cell tower on our school campus would remedy this. However, there is no documentation, and if you listen to the previous school committee meeting, that was not confirmed. It was not, and certainly not the Boardwalk campus. That was made clear by the Tower Co. Representative. So, there are other alternatives, and what I've seen is that the school committee has not researched that. I've seen no evidence of that, no documentation. I've looked at everything. So it is concerning that at this juncture, we would trade off the health and safety of our students and staff. The committee has not done its due diligence in ensuring that AB students and staff's health will not be negatively impacted. There's been no health impact study or environmental review, as several parents have asked for. There's a lack of transparency and communication to students, parents, and our community, and every AB parent that I've spoken to about the possible cell tower is unaware of it. The school committee vote on this possible cell tower should not take place tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi, I'm Molly Norris. I'm a senior. Been here a lot. So I think a lot of the people talking have not been at the high school for 3 years, and I know that sounds like I'm just like being annoying, but I have experienced over the past 3 years, it's not only an impact to security of the school, the lack of cell service is also an impact to our education, because the cell service, oftentimes we have issues in our computers. I know on the first day of school I have multiple classes where teachers were unable to do their planned lessons for the first day because computers were not working. And so of course the second option for that is to go on phones, but most people's phones don't work in the school. And then going back to the security aspect, I remember at the beginning of my sophomore year, so 2 years ago, there was the security threat in the building and we were under lockdown for a couple hours, and I remember my parents were trying to text me and the texts weren't going through, and my parents were really worried because they couldn't get any communication to me, and I'm sure my parents weren't the only people. So I understand that there might be health effects, and I know they have talked about them, but as they said, they have not been confirmed. And I think it's not only a safety thing, it's also an education thing, and that's what school is for. School is for education, and I think if it's going to help the education, I think that's really important. So thank you.
Thanks, Molly. We have about 6 minutes left in our public participation, so go for it.
Yeah. So some good points in terms of that as a fellow educator. So I think before you vote, you should look at Starlink. They have equivalent cellular coverage that doesn't have the health issues, so that might be something. And the Wi-Fi booster, of course, that would be something you'd want to look at as well. But yeah, I guess that's the main thing. There seems to be alternatives that, you know, if And you probably don't know about it because it's kind of a tech thing and I had to look it up, but I'd be happy to provide the information before a vote came up.
Thanks, Roger.
Hi, Steve Ballard from Boxborough. I've been away for a while. I wasn't going to say anything, but I just was struck by those comments that make so much sense. You guys are not ready to vote on this. You should table the vote. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I think almost everyone in the room has had an opportunity to speak, so thank you all for that public participation. I just do want to share that one of the reasons we changed our public participation to be only at the beginning of the meeting was so that feedback could be given to the committee like this. In a traditional meeting or some of our historical meetings, the feedback around a specific agenda item wouldn't come until that agenda item, and often it would come after the committee deliberates. So I do want to thank all the members of the public who came and spoke. This item is on our agenda for a bit later, so I would invite you to stick around. There will be clearly deliberation by the committee at that time. But at this point, we're going to move on to our superintendent's update. Peter.
All right, thanks, Adam. A few things. I want to give a quick congratulations to Rebecca Mazonson, who is an English language development teacher. She was one of 14 teachers selected to participate in the Fulbright Hayes Fellowship this past summer in Peru. So congratulations, Rebecca. We have posted the last year's annual report to our district website, and we'll be sending that out to families tomorrow. We moved to a digital-only version of this in order to save some printing costs, but what we are doing in order to reach all of the people who don't necessarily have kids in the schools, we are doing postcards this year with a QR code that brings people to a web link of that document. So those postcards should be sent out probably within the next week or so and should arrive certainly within 2 weeks in people's mailboxes. Want to give, this is not in my written update, but give a late breaking piece of news that, Acton is going to be moved toward the high risk category for EEE. We learned that later this afternoon. This is actually something that Jim Scanlon, our new athletic director, and I had already talked about probably about a week ago. We started making plans for this, and we had committed that if we moved into high risk, then we'd be moving the times of our evening outdoor activities. So, as soon as we get that confirmation from the town, our intent would be that we'd be moving all of our outdoor activities to end before dusk. So just want to provide that information. That will be something that goes out to parents tomorrow so people know what the plan is. We are also going to start previewing some information with families around student attendance and socialize kind of some of the needs to really work in partnership with each other to help students get back in school. As you know, and I shared in the last meeting, our students are averaging 59% more absences as of last year than in 2019. So we've gone from 6.1 absences per student all the way up to 9.7 absences last year. About 40% of our students are missing 10 or more days of school, which is a 95% increase since 2019. And more than 1 in 10 students, which is actually 11%, are actually missing more than 18 days or 10% of a school year. And that is a 160% increase since 2019. So we're previewing that with families in tomorrow's update, but then we will also be sending out a specific attendance letter to families to continue to draw attention to that and the need to work with families and schools to make sure that we're supporting all of our students. Elementary budget task force, that was something obviously that we've talked about quite a bit. We sent out the update to the community and the invitation to participate. We started to look into alternate dates. I know that came up at the last school committee meeting, and every time I floated an alternate date, someone else new had a conflict with it. And so we kind of reached an end of the road where we just weren't getting productive solutions to trying to find alternate times, so that's why we did keep the same times that had been previously published. I know that causes some conflicts and challenges for people. I feel badly about that, but we just didn't have a good solution. We are accepting applications for that task force up until 4 p.m. on September 17th, and just want to make sure our community knows about that. We're also working to reach out to some different parts of the community that may not traditionally receive information. So I sent this to the Acton Exchange as well as the Boxborough News, and we're anticipating that will be published hopefully in the next few days there. We are sending out additional information on COVID-19 protocols as well. I know it's been a long time since we talked about it, thankfully. But, you know, one of the things that we had committed to do following the pandemic is that we would follow whatever the standing guidance from the state was. So we're just sending that out. But essentially, it is staying home and away from others when sick. That they can return to typical activities such as school when for at least 24 hours, both are true, that their symptoms are improving and they've been fever-free for at least 24 hours without the use of medications. Once normal activities resume, they should continue to take added precautions for 5 days, such as practicing physical distancing, practicing good hand hygiene, and consider wearing a mask and testing at home. And then as always, it's recommended that they consult with their primary care provider around specific health needs. So just want to make sure people know that that's going out tomorrow as well. We're also seeking some help from our community. We have a number of non-certified staff positions that are still unfilled. This is an ongoing trend in education, but we are going to send that out to the broader community in hopes that we can continue to recruit staff members. We have openings for special education assistants, part-time classroom openings, teaching assistant positions, part-time office support position, a crossing guard, and extended day program position. So want to make sure people know that we have openings available, and then we'll be sending out information on our next Cartwheel Care webinar, which is coming up on September 10th, and that is the relationship between ADHD and learning disorders. So hopefully of interest to many of our families. And then finally, our superintendent coffee and school committee chairperson coffee, the first one of the year, is scheduled for Tuesday, September 17th at 8:30 a.m. And that's a Zoom link. And just as a reminder for everyone, we do alternate back and forth between nights and mornings to try and make it as accessible to as many people as possible.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Questions for Peter on the update? All right. Thank you. On to guests and presentations for the evening. Dr. Gabrielle Abrams, who I just call Gabby when I see her in the hall. This will be the third day in a row I've got to see Gabby's wonderful smile. And tomorrow we get to meet, so 4 days in a row. You're going to talk a bit about your entry plan.
Good evening, everyone. Make sure you turn your mic. Good to see you. Happy New Year, officially. Thank you, Peter.
And I'm looking for the present button, if anyone sees them. Is that what it is?
It's fine. We can make it work just like that.
All right, and you have the clicker. You might just need to turn it on this, the side.
I'm not sure that I'll need it because of there's no present mode, so you'll just
go
down.
Yeah, why don't you start, and if I can get it to work, we'll go.
Great. Thanks for having me tonight, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. I'm really honored to be able to share with you my entry plan and overview, which I've provided in the slides. I'll just give a little bit of texture to the slides for you this evening. I've chosen to name my entry plan Assess and Bolster, a little play on AB, because it's such a part of me now. If you wouldn't mind advancing, Peter, that would be great. Thank you. Just a little bit about me. I think I've shared with you previously, this is my 28th first year in education. I'm so excited about every year being so fresh and new and really thinking about the challenges that lie ahead for me. No 2 years have been alike, which is why I always refer to it that way. And have really had a great opportunity to serve as a leader and a learner and a consummate educator. Next slide, please. Just as I'm hoping to become a part of the fabric of the AB community, it's really important to me that I anchor myself in the mission, vision, values, and the strategic vision for the AB community. So these two slides just highlight those areas that are incredibly essential to name in our community. You can advance, please, 2 slides. And then really the goal for me this evening is to share with you the heart and soul of this process that I'm entering into, and really that started on April 5th, the day after I was appointed by you officially last spring. So the goal of an entry plan as written here, really, I just want to highlight and pull off the page some pretty important words in here from the research by Jensen Murphy from 2005, really about building relationships, understanding organizational culture, setting the stage for long-term goals, but really, in essence, the fabric that needs to be woven into that is creating trust through the information gathering and developing a clear understanding of both the assets that are in our community and also the opportunities and challenges that we see as a collective for informed improvement strategies moving forward. If you could advance, please. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I have an opportunity often to partner with other superintendents, assistant superintendents, and I see them as thought partners and guides and friends. And really, they often challenge my thinking. And I was working with a small group of new assistant superintendents and in a mentoring capacity and also in a collegial capacity. And these questions were shared with me by one of our colleagues, and I adapted them with her permission. And I just really thought she hit the nail on the head for the broad areas of study that really do need to energize me throughout this study. I won't highlight all of them because they are numerous, but you'll see many familiar words and terms as being values and processes that are already under exploration in the Acton-Boxborough Public Schools. You have had the benefit of an extended tenure with Deb Bookus, who led the way in all of this work in such a beautiful and really professional fashion. So I'm walking into a space that it's a really nice opportunity for us to kind of take stock because of that long tenure that Deb offered to the system. And so it's really a nice opportunity for me to be guided by these questions. Next slide, please. This really highlights the phases of entry planning, and as I mentioned, it's fairly unusual to be able to be welcomed into a community as early as I was, and I'm really thankful for that. So while I had a full-time job that I really loved doing and was very engaged in, I also had an opportunity to start learning, and that district granted me the opportunity to come join you in district for several days in June, participate in some important stage-setting meetings. So I consider that my pre-entry phase that started April through June. And then when I officially started in July, I saw that as a real opportunity to kick off a listen, learn, and connect phase where I've just been engaged in a whole lot of conversation about what folks are proud of and what they're excited to see improve, where they see their students experiencing their greatest assets and where they want to see opportunities enhanced for their learners, programs, and experiences. So during this time, which will end around Thanksgiving, I will be engaging in a lot more conversations, formal and informal. I'll be engaging with the community through a couple different methods, and I wanted to present this to you this evening before I rolled it out to the whole community, but through a thought exchange, which is an opportunity for us to generate ideas and then share if those ideas rate and resonate for us. Community members will have an opportunity to engage in that, and also hybrid meetings where we'll have opportunities to have listening tours. I'll have opportunities to have a listening tour with community members both in person and virtual. That is not my forte, but I know that that's going to work. Doing both at the same time is not my forte, but it's going to make it work because I really want to make sure that I'm meeting the competing demands of all of our community members who want to engage. I really want to give them a space and place to do that. I'll also be meeting with school leaders and teacher leaders and visiting classrooms. I set up my first shadow day today in kindergarten at Conant, which I'm really excited about after meeting with a group of educators this afternoon who invited me into that space to do that. I'm really, really excited about that. Throughout December, I'll really be analyzing all of that data, and there's lots of pages already, and I thank school committee members who already set up some time to come and speak with me and share your stories with me. I feel changed and enhanced by every story that I have an opportunity to hear, and it also helps me to really understand both where you are as family members in our community and also where you are as leaders of our schools. It's incredibly important. In January, I'll be sharing a report that prioritizes some of those findings. And then even though it says implementation February 2025 and beyond, what I can share with you is there's a lot of work to be done on a day-to-day basis. So while all this study is occurring, I'm still staying quite busy with really, really inspiring and inspired work and inspired people. So there's lots of meetings, there's lots of planning, there's lots of plans already in motion that I'm helping to nurture as well as challenge and question and thought partner. So all of that is happening in concert, but it's incredibly important that I gather a lot of information at the same time. And so then you'll see that the process for reflection and evaluation will need to be continuous and ongoing, and also rely on feedback from all the constituencies following that presentation. If you don't mind advancing, please. The next several slides provide you with a little bit of more detail about each of the phases. So you'll see I've already shared with you some of the pre-entry conversations, but this delineates it further. You can advance, Peter. The stage that I'm in right now, looking at all of those meetings and those conversations. In addition to conversations and storytelling, which is really my favorite part, it's really important that I do a deep dive into the documents, agendas, meeting structures, curriculum, review processes, curriculum documents. All of that will also inform much of this work that I'm going to be going into. Next slide, please. The analysis and confirmation is pretty self-explanatory. You can advance, please. As is reporting and prioritization. So my hope is to come back to you sometime in probably late January with a summary of some of the findings from the report that I present to Superintendent Light at that time. You can advance, please. Thank you. And then lastly, collaboratively implementing the action plans after that they are publicly shared and have an opportunity to be vetted. There's a high likelihood that I'll need to adjust and refine based on clarity and goals and timeline and budget, because we will be in the throes of the FY26 budget at that time. And it's really important to make sure that those are all completed in harmony, and also that we're nimble enough to adjust based on what we're seeing as high leverage to manifest the change that we're hoping to see versus something that might not be as high leverage. Next slide, please. And then lastly, continuing to reflect and evaluate, as I mentioned already, will be ongoing in this process. The summation of the rest of the slides really provides you with an appendix of sample questions that I'm going to be asking and that I have been engaged in throughout all of the conversations that I've been having so far. Just a little bit of a teaser, I will be asking you for the best advice that you have to offer to me. It's one of my favorite things that I have to hear from folks who have shared besides their personal stories and their own life journeys, which is really important, as well as what do you think should stay, or what do you think we should keep? What do you think we should change? What do you think we should not change? What are those beloved elements of the Acton-Boxborough Regional School District that we want to make sure just become amplified and even celebrated more? I'm happy to accept or hear any questions that you have at this time, but I really am enjoying this process and have continued to feel really honored to be a part of your community.
Thanks, Gabby.
Sure.
Questions, comments? Everyone is excited to meet with you, I think. All right, thank you very much.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to the Diligent School Committee platform for committee engagement goal. It's a very wordy way of saying we've got a new way to present our agendas, minutes, material, and part of this is in response to some of what the community has shared with us. Also, some of it is in response to what our own committee members have shared in terms of having timely and easy access to some of our meeting materials. So I'll hand it over to Peter.
All right, thanks, Adam. So, one of the things that I've heard consistently over the time that I've been in Acton-Boxborough is that finding information from school committee meetings can be really challenging, and you have to become well-versed in order to know where to look and how to access information. And so, one of the things that I've been thinking about over the last couple of years, and we finally decided to make the move, was to think about a platform that could allow for increased community transparency into what the school committee does, but also think about how we can use the staff that we have in more efficient ways to help support the committee's work. So we are soon to release this platform. It's just a new school committee website, but it actually has a back end that will help our staff be more efficient with their time in preparing materials. What I want to do is just show you some of the public-facing features of the site tonight and orient you and other committee members to kind of how the site works. So, this will be a public-facing website. People will be able to translate the website in Google Chrome. They just go here, pick the language that they want to translate into. They can select from a broad range of, and that just disappeared on me. They can select from a broad range of languages, right in Google Chrome, translate it, and have access to multiple languages. It has a number of tabs, and I'll just briefly describe each one, but essentially what will happen is all of the school committee meetings will appear here, and we are keeping this just to school committee meetings and engagement sessions with school committees. So I talked with Adam a little bit about this. I reached out to Yangshan, and I know you're working on getting me dates for community engagement times that we'll be able to link here as well, so people know not only when are the meetings and the various subcommittees of the committee, but where else can I engage with school committee members and find it all in one location. It also has sections to connect to various social media applications that the district uses, but then you can see what it comes up with are, any meetings that day, any upcoming meetings, and any past meetings. We're currently populating this. I did create a couple of sample meetings just so you could see what some of this looks like. So I will show a sample agenda. And then it will have sections here for budget, ways that individuals can subscribe to notifications of different school committee meetings, including all of the different subcommittees that they'd like to be notified of, and that's open to anyone in the community to be able to subscribe to. And then it will also have a policy section here, so it's all kind of one-stop shopping for people. I will show you the subscribe feature briefly. What this does, and I'll zoom in, this will allow community members and anyone to go in and check off the various types of meetings that they'd like to be made aware of. And when we publish any agenda, they will receive an email notification that agenda has been published for an upcoming meeting. And so that they're aware of it, they know how to access the meeting and can move forward. And we like the fact that people can subscribe to those areas of interest to them, but don't necessarily have to get every notification. When you go to the meetings tab, which is where most meeting information resides for people to be able to access, you'll see a couple of different things, and I'm going to zoom in here, but there's a brief overview of what a subcommittee is and what that subcommittee or full meeting is of the school committee, when in general that committee meets, but then you can actually get the links for all of the materials right on that website. Additionally, and I think it's, this is where it's a little nicer to build out. People can actually learn about what the policy subcommittee does, what the budget subcommittee does, as well as access the meeting materials in one place. And if they want to know who's a member of a certain committee, they can actually click in and see who the staff member assigned to that committee is, as well as any school committee members who are part of the committee, and what other subcommittees a school committee member might serve on as well. So we think that's going to be helpful for people. A sample agenda, the way this would appear to the public, there's actually some options for how the public might want to interface with this. This is a web version of the agenda, and this happens to be the agenda for tonight's meeting that I recreated for fun. But this would be what someone sees. You can see the meeting information is really clearly linked. All of the documents reside on the website as part of the platform. And we think this will be a nice feature for people. Some people, it can be hard to try and access documents and follow along with an agenda. So there's a split screen view that some people might want to follow, where it will show you the agenda on one side, and you can automatically pull up the documents as the meeting goes on and see, kind of cover memos as well as other documents that sit as part of that presentation without losing your place in an agenda. There is also an option for members of the public, to view the entire packet as one PDF, where they can scroll through, see all of the agenda minutes, but then all of the materials are printed in the order that the school committee will be able to consider them. So we think by providing this flexibility to members of the community, different people can choose how they want to interface with materials. And then going back to the main website, one of the real significant features of this is the search function. And so, currently when we post documents to the website, it's a PDF, and our website cannot look inside the PDFs to be able to produce good information about what's happening there. But if I want to find out what is going on with district goals, I can do a search on that. And what you will see below is any time now on the new platform where district goals are referenced, and you're actually going to get an excerpt of what was going on, and you can see this one is actually right out of the document, but then you're going to find minutes that were previously referenced where district goals were discussed. You can see different agendas, other documents that reference goals. So this actually, I think, is going to really significantly increase transparency for the community. So I'm pleased to be able to roll this out. As a next step for you, following this meeting, we will send you an email that will have a very brief video of an overview from a school committee standpoint of how to use the platform, as well as your login credentials. This platform also provides you an opportunity as you're reviewing packets to be able to take personal memory notes on different topics that you have access to, so that as the meeting progresses, you see what you were thinking. Those are not shared notes with anyone else. Those are only your notes. I can't see your notes. Adam can't see your notes. No other staff members. Those are truly just your notes to be able to take and annotate meetings, things like that. So it also hopefully will make your preparations for meetings more efficient. It will also make policy revision a lot clearer, where we can better track when policies are revised, set dates when we want to revise policies in the future, and keep track of those in a better way. So we're excited to be able to roll this out. Right now, the date that we're looking at is to be able to use this starting on your first meeting of October. We're still doing a lot of back-end work to make sure that we're up and running. And we will also provide a link to archived information from prior school committee meetings that people can still access on the regular website. So kind of next steps for school committee engagement.
Quickly, Peter, once this is live, how do members of the community get to it?
What will happen is on the district website, when there's the school committee link, it will be right under that school committee link that people can see that that's actually now the new place to go get school committee information.
Great. Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee? Ben?
I'm excited about this. This is going to be great to be able to have one repository of information to go to, as opposed to clicking through links and going back and forth and trying to, recreate the scene of the crime, so to speak. Thank you.
Can you share the cost of that platform?
I don't know offhand. I think it was probably about $7,000 a year, somewhere in that range, which is pretty typical of any kind of web platform.
And supporting the work of probably what a full-time employee would have had to do for us, given the number of meetings that we have to track at this point.
Yeah, what I'm not sharing is all of the kind of how the sausage is made part of this, of like what this will do for Julie. But essentially, what she's doing now is trying, every time she gets a document or an agenda item, she has to create a Google folder for the meeting, take the document, she saves it in kind of her folder to organize the meeting, then she has to transfer it to a public folder to be viewable, make sure the links work, upload that to a school committee packet, make sure all the links work. It's just incredibly time consuming. And Julie now posts about 150 meetings a year, which, if you think on the scale of a municipality, that's like almost a full-time clerk kind of a position. So we need also a tool that can make things more efficient for her. And now our staff at the district level can actually go in, create the agenda item themselves, upload all of them, the materials themselves, send it to Julie and me for review, and we accept it and automatically sets on an agenda where we want it to. So a lot of automation and workflow behind the scenes that we think will make it easier. From a policy subcommittee standpoint, there's a lot of efficiencies baked into that too, that Microsoft Word is actually, the online version of it is built into the policy manual. And so when we make revisions to the policy manual during policy sub, it automatically creates a new draft redline version of that policy. And then there's a button that says send it to the full committee for review. And it automatically goes into the next agenda as a redline version for the committee to be able to look at. So we think this will, we have a $115 million annual budget. And, to think about how we create a level of transparency and organization and efficiency to supporting the governance of that is really important, and making that effective. So that, just to speak to cost, sorry for the long answer, but I think it's important to understand, there's a cost, but there's also opportunity and benefit from that cost.
I'm thrilled about the search function as a member of the public, but also when I joined school committee, I was going and searching through various links again and again and again. My question was around like once we roll the platform out, if we're figuring out that some piece of it isn't working, is there an ability to modify once it's rolled out?
That's an excellent question. And in my meeting with Peter yesterday, where I gave him about 15 suggestions and I saw his eyes get bigger and bigger and bigger, I said, hold on, you know what? We haven't even put all the information in it yet. We haven't used it yet. So if we're going to start using it in October, and I think my ask for the committee and for the public as well is let's use it for a couple months in the way that we've got it set up now, and then we'll go back and iterate it and see what makes sense, see what feedback we've gotten. So there's definitely, from what Peter has been excitedly telling me about, there's lots of opportunities for customization and to create something that works for us the best way that we want to work with it. But I think until we have some more experience with it, we don't want to start messing with it too much just yet.
Ben, quick question. Is this integrated into our own website, or is this off our website on the cloud or elsewhere?
This is a website located on the cloud, independent of our district website. This is an organization that specializes in creating board governance websites, specific to how to make sure you're running your organizations efficiently at the board level.
You know, and what I'll add is for those of us, all of us who are on subcommittees, at some point the buck that gets past you to take minutes, this platform will be the place for which we take minutes as well. So when we're sitting in the meeting, you'll go into the tool, you'll go to the agenda. If you're the assigned person for taking minutes, you'll be able to do that right in the agenda. It also has the ability to very quickly tally and take votes. So if we have a subcommittee that has 4 people on it and it's time to take a vote, those 4 names will show up and you get to click yay, 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 nay, 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 abstain, whatever, for those people. So it will make our process as committee members serving on subcommittees a lot easier too, because again, we don't have staff to take minutes for us during those meetings. It's incumbent upon us to do that. Chairs of those subcommittees, same thing, being able to create agendas, approve agenda items, have those suggestions come in from the staff who supports that. It'll help streamline that as well.
And, you know, one thing that I think is a real positive is we've never had the internal staff to be able to think about how we would manage publishing, you know, like subcommittee minutes in a way. So people have had to request them if they want them. With this platform, they'll actually just sit on the website. So people can actually see what's going on in the subcommittees as well as in the full committee.
All right, you know, the one thing that I sort of wanted to tie this to, again, was some of the feedback that we had in our workshop this summer around accessibility for ourselves to get to the information, and that some folks want to get the information differently. Some people want a complete PDF of the entire meeting. Some people want the linked PDFs. Other people want to get information different ways. Lots of us want to be able to search for text strings, and I've had that problem definitely, particularly when we look at budget binders. So, you know, the goal here is to be able to make our meeting content more accessible, not just to the public, but also to the committee members. So, you know, one of the things that I would like for everyone to do is once this goes live, go in, start playing around with it, and look at the material before our meeting. And in fact, at our first meeting, let's make sure that we've all seen the materials in this before and played with this before. There's, like Peter said, there's a couple quick intro videos just to sort of introduce you to the platform. There's enough sample material in here now once you get access that you'll be able to very quickly play around, see what you got. The committee member view is different than the public view. And so when I looked at it, the first thing you get when you log in is what's my next meeting and what's the agenda look like? So it's right to the point really quickly. Yeah, please.
Do you know if when you go to an agenda, or the minutes, if that is also translatable in the website?
I don't know. My suspicion is it's not yet. I'm not sure. I would have to, I can look at it.
Sometimes PDFs are not.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it. It's a good point. All right. I'm going to move us on. Oh, Tori, 7 times to ask questions, and now you...
I just want to say, I love this. For this first try, let's just make sure we have a backup method, because I feel like I should tell you that I have an incredible ability to break things.
All right, we'll be sure to give you no administrator access whatsoever, but yes.
You're looking at the translated version of an agenda?
Thank you.
Yep. This is Afrikaans because it's first in the alphabet.
Okay, we are going to move on, please, to our school opening report, which is also for Peter to present.
Yes. All right. So school opening report, you know, I already gave you at the last meeting, you know, some of the details of the capital work and everything else. And so, you know, we always say, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So what I really want to do is just share a few highlights from each of our schools with you over the opening of schools. I do want to thank the principals for, you know, sharing some of the things that they would like referenced. And so, you know, we're a big system, and so I'm going to try and go quickly and just be able to celebrate a lot of the work our amazing educators and students have done over the course of the opening. So at the Carol Hebner Early Childhood Program, on staff professional days, the staff participated in activities to promote a sense of belonging, make connections, and strengthen relationships. Parents and guardians and students had an opportunity to explore and play in the classroom and meet the staff during a special orientation that they held. And on the first day of school, students participated in morning meetings, story time, and learned about classroom jobs and routines. With the beautiful weather, all the classes played outdoors and even got to take a walk on the boardwalk. At Blanchard, teachers are working on establishing routines and systems for students. Students have been collaborating with one another and getting to know new classmates. And the start of the year brings a palpable excitement around the building, and it's been amazing thus far. And as you can see, Blanchard welcomed a new principal this year in Mr. Votto. Over at Conant, kindergarten students used their PIN numbers for the very first time to purchase lunch from the cafeteria. That is a very big adult thing for our kindergartners to be doing, and they do it remarkably well. This was a first at Conant School. Teachers and caregivers helped students practice entering their PIN before school began, and by the first day of school, students were flawless. Fourth graders worked collaboratively in small groups already. Our third graders got to reunite on the playground. Kindergarten students ate their first lunch together in the Conant cafeteria, and student team-led announcements on the first day of school. At Douglas, they had an incredible opening and start to the school year. The opening on the first day featured an appearance from Doug the Eagle. We don't know who that is, but we have our suspicions. And a warm welcome for our new assistant principal, Nelia Felicia Correa Patrick. The opening of our new free book browsing library for all of our students. The purpose of that library is to get books into the hands of students and encourage reading. And then teachers onboarding enthusiastic students to the SOAR values of the Douglas community. At Gates, they had lots of fun activities taking place across the school during that first week. One class created friendship bracelets. Each bead represented positive aspects of friendship, kindness, respect, support, caring, and celebrating. All classrooms practiced routines over the past week, from how to sit on a rug to waiting in a hallway. And sixth grade students were given an engineering challenge using popsicle sticks and clothespins. They had to create a freestanding structure. As you can see, they were having a great time and putting those engineering skills to work. McCarthy Town welcomed 8 new faculty members and 35 new students. In addition to the kindergarten students, the kindergarten students received their traditional MICCA carnations during MICCA kindergarten orientation. They also get a carnation when they graduate from MICCA and from high school as well. They also rolled out pickup patrol with the support of families and office staff, and dismissal is faster and safer than it has been for years. At Miriam, they welcomed students back for the new school year. Miriam buzzed with an excitement and a renewed sense of community, setting a positive tone for the year ahead. Miriam enjoyed a special visit from Officer John Stackhouse and his canine partner, Zane. The students were thrilled to interact with Zane, taking turns petting and connecting with the four-legged guest. Teachers focused on establishing strong foundations for the school year, dedicating time to social emotional learning activities, and creating classroom routines and agreements. The collaborative process helps to foster an inclusive classroom culture where every student feels seen, valued, and supported. And the hallways and classrooms were alive with enthusiasm as students reunite with friends, meet new classmates, and reconnect with teachers. The junior high school has been a very smooth opening as well. They welcomed 28 students new to AB this fall. They also held welcome assemblies and safety assemblies for each grade level, and teachers have prioritized making connections with students and forming comfortable classroom environments. At the high school, they had their 9th grade orientation day on Wednesday, August 28th. That was a huge success. The class of 2028 found all of their classes, met their teachers, gathered in groups with their assistant principals and counselors, and enjoyed 2 different grade level assemblies. Student leaders, volunteers, and ambassadors led the way in welcoming new students and all staff back to school this year. You can see the photo. One of the great things that we have been able to do is actually have our students greet our teachers on the first day back for them, which I think is just such a wonderful way for educators to feel celebrated in the community for all the work that they're doing. And on Friday, August 30th, grades 10, 11, and 12 met in their grade level assemblies to discuss the year ahead, expectations, and encourage all students to make the community the best it can be. Students enjoyed Jeopardy-style trivia games in their AP teams, the assistant principal teams that they have at the high school, and so far the year's off to a great start. So I want to thank all of the educators across the district for making this great for our students. Obviously, we love having our students back, and we just want to also thank all of our families for the support that they provide to our students and faculty.
Thanks, Peter. Comments, accolades from the committee? Okay. Moving on. Next item on our agenda is a first read of the School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding. There are a number of items that were presented in the packet around this, and Peter's memo as well, sort of recounting where we're at in the process, and then we've got some items around the school committee's recommendations for the MOU, an annotated version of that, and then also the final clean version of that MOU. Peter, do you want to give us any more information on this?
Sure. So as you recall, last year you did vote to continue the SRO program, but also made a series of recommendations of things you'd like to see in the MOU. The MOU by default is a negotiated document between the school district and the town of Acton police, and then subsequently town of Boxborough and its police. So Town of Acton has long maintained an SRO program where the town of Boxborough has not had a formal SRO program necessarily. So the negotiation we did started with the town of Acton, and what we wanted to do was develop the framework for the MOU first with the town of Acton, and then be able to talk to Boxborough to see if that's something that they also supported for that community. The documents you have, I went through the original SRO recommendations of the subcommittee, and what I did is I annotated them and tried to pull out references to specific parts of the MOU where you could easily reference them, and then I went through the MOU and annotated it back toward the different recommendations just to make it a little easier. So you can kind of see how language went from the MOU and evolved into the document that you see. I will note there were certain things in the recommendations that when we actually started talking about what it looked like in the MOU actually just didn't make sense anymore. So for example, the most notable of those was, the police officers in the schools will log anytime an officer is armed when they're in a school. The answer to that, because police wear the standard uniform, is that they're always armed. And so we wouldn't necessarily, want to waste staff time maintaining logs to say that anytime the officer's in the building, they would expect to be armed. So there are some things like that. That's called out in the documents if you saw something that was different, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Peter. So yeah, the process is we're looking at this now. Now is the opportunity for the committee to provide any feedback, ask any questions on this, and the hope is that at our next meeting, we will vote the MOU in place. Questions, comments from the committee? Vikram.
Is it absolutely necessary for their SRO to actually be carrying a gun at all times? Is there actually a benefit to that?
So we talked to the chief about that. The SROs are full-duty active police officers, and so there's chunks of their time that they're spent in the schools, but they also get called out of the schools very frequently on a daily basis to either respond to something in the community, perform other functions of a police officer. And from a police standpoint, what the chief shared with me is they can't not be prepared for different circumstances, or even sometimes in a school, if they had to respond to a safety incident in a school, there are extraordinarily rare occurrences where you'd also need an officer armed for something with their full packet of things. We hope we never have that eventuality, but if we ever did, that's one reason that they remain armed. So the answer from the police was yes.
Steve, I want to point out there's no public participation on this agenda item. Public participation is only at the beginning of the meeting. So if you want to, you can email the committee. We're not voting tonight, but we're not going to accept it. Don't even bother turning the microphone on, please. We're not accepting public participation at this point. Other committee members' comments?
I just wanted to ask, I know Rebecca was really involved with this subcommittee, whether she didn't send in any feedback. I mean, it looked to me like all of the recommendations were pretty much incorporated, but I just wanted to make sure I'm not missing anything. And I appreciate your effort in making those changes easy to identify.
I didn't see any feedback from Rebecca. I don't know, Peter, if you did.
No, I haven't received feedback on that. I will call out, there's one notable difference, and so that I just want to make sure you're aware of. And in the recommendations, it said police officers wouldn't be called, SROs wouldn't be in schools unless they were specifically called for some reason. You know, I think in talking with the town, one of the challenges is they would not want, like, there's no reason for them to resource 2 full-time officers for people that are only called in at random times. And so, you know, what we talked about behind it was the need for some of our students and families to understand that there's a predictable routine to when they might expect an officer in school. And so the language that, you know, we settled on through negotiation, and I'm proposing to you, was that the SRO and the principal should establish what that schedule is before a school year starts, and then that schedule is kept on file, obviously at the school, but then in my office and with the police chief, so that if we have a family who has a concern about something, we can talk about what the schedule is, where to expect the SRO, what they might be doing, and try and work with them. So there is a notable difference in that, and I don't want to hide that, but otherwise, I actually think most of those recommendations are incorporated as they were originally proposed.
Thank you, and thanks for the annotated version of this. I really do appreciate it. On page 16 of this, there's a number of pieces regarding data collection, and it is a lot of mandates the SRO will be doing. What's the consequence for this, and what level of additional refinement of data collection will be available to us throughout the year, separate from just they provide us a report as per the MOU?
So, you know, there are different levels of data collection. Like, one is that there'll be a log kept in the school office of when the SRO is present. You know, that's actually, it originally sounded burdensome, but then as I thought about it a little more, all we need to do is keep a clipboard in the main office. So when an SRO goes in, they just quickly sign in like anyone else, and there's our log of when they're there. Are we going to be able to easily like aggregate that and digitally analyze it for the school committee on a regular basis? Probably not. But you know, I want to be honest about like what we're able to do. You know, we already report any student arrests to the state in disaggregated format to the degree we're able to. So those are easy to aggregate. We have moved to a system, particularly with the Acton police, but actually we're mirroring it in Boxborough. Whereas I think, you know, dating back years, our school might contact SROs on their cell phones. We no longer do that. We actually call dispatch for everything. And so the Acton police put in a process to log everything in dispatch anytime an SRO is called to a school, so that we have a running record of it. And that was something that was, you know, a direct result of some of the feedback they got from the committee at a meeting, I think probably last year or the year before. So if the answers the question or not.
That in part does, and the reason I'm asking is that I know that there's a series of data points that are collected. You mentioned the like ledger when they walk in and out, and you also mentioned that everything will go through dispatch. And here it also says that any private meetings between a student and the SRO would be noted. My question comes to when these rules for gathering information aren't followed, what's the consequence from it say private meetings are occurring and we are not, and we, the district, are not made aware of it, or there's access to the building and we are not made aware of it, what's the consequence for them not aligning to the agreement that they have here? And I have one more follow-up after that.
Sure. So, the evaluation of the SRO and the SRO program is actually a major component of this MOU. And so as part of that, there's always an opportunity for feedback on the SRO program that can be submitted. And that's something that is a subject of reporting to the committee. We will also annually solicit feedback from the community around the SRO program, which gets aggregated. And then, our principals report to me, and then the superintendent actually collaborates with the chief of police now in the evaluation of SROs. So if there's a concern within our schools, there's a reporting mechanism up to how that gets back to police.
And I'll follow up very quick regarding quarterly. They come back to us and provide us with a review. Are quarterly we allowed to then go back and say, we want more information about this, we want to gather more information about that? Are we as the district, we as the school committee able to go and say we want more visibility, transparency into it on a quarterly basis after we're receiving the first reports?
So I would say that what we have detailed in here is an annual report to the school committee. So the reporting is provided to the district, but there is once a year, the police chief will come and report on the program to the school committee. And what I would suggest is that we let this run its course for a year. We collect data, we understand how the process is moving, and then we have the opportunity every year to revisit the MOU and decide if we want it to continue. But this is a markedly more detailed and more sort of complete process that we have not had in the past.
Absolutely. However, quarterly reports to the superintendent are coming from the SRO per the MOU per page 16. And so with the quarterly report coming through, the opportunity to review those quarterly reports either in committee with Peter or otherwise would allow the opportunity to refine the data collection process happening inside the schools and or check to see that the processes are being followed. And that's what I'm asking about. Are we tied to this annually, or recognizing this is our first lap and we're always slowest in our first lap, are we able to adjust the reports coming to us from the SRO to better align to reality? And it may be more an operational question for Peter outside of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an area of potential negotiation with the chief, and what that will lead me to is sort of what the next steps are for us in this. So the committee spun off a subcommittee to come and put together the recommendations. Those recommendations came back to the full committee. We as the full committee voted those, and then we went and sent our administrator off to negotiate the MOU. And what we have in front of us is a negotiated MOU based on the recommendations of this committee. At this point, if there are additional requests or additional work that's being asked for, we want to get those requests. We probably want to get them formally in writing, and then we need to ascertain whether or not it's something that we feel Peter, as the superintendent and our administrator, is still empowered to go negotiate with the police chief, or if we need to take this up another level and have the elected officials between the school committee and the select board discuss whether or not what we're asking for is congruent with what the town of Acton wants to be able to put in place for us. So, I mean, to be blunt, we've probably gotten to the extent of what Peter can negotiate for us in the MOU, and I would say he's done a pretty good job of getting almost all of the things that we've asked for. If we feel that there's more that we want, then we probably have to escalate this to a higher level to folks who are maybe differently empowered to make some of those changes. Leela.
I appreciate your work to negotiate, and thank you for the annotated MOU. There were a few things. Number one, the data that goes to the superintendent every quarter, can we get that too? Like, is it possible for you to forward that on?
Yeah, I can include that in the school committee packet.
Okay.
The only thing will be that there are always limits, especially on disaggregation of
Sure.
data, for small populations.
Yeah, so like suppressed, whatever we get quarterly. When the chief comes every year, can the SROs also come in front of the committee? Last time police came to the subcommittee, there was a lot of, I don't know, I'm not really sure, and that's not super helpful if we have one shot at having a conversation. Just for the full committee to know, I sent this MOU back to the juvenile justice lawyer that had come and supported the subcommittee, and he was pleasantly surprised by what we had. I am concerned about the consequences piece, or like what happens if we don't follow it, that Andrew brought up, because I feel like part of the reason we have SROs continued is because we just like didn't have resources for an alternative. And then I was wondering when we might be able to circle back to like the bigger issue beyond just the MOU, because I feel like the end of the subcommittee wasn't our finest moment in like community engagement or involvement. Partially, a lot of the reason was because of the override, but I know the DEI Family Advisory, but also the subcommittee did not come away from it saying like we are thrilled about the SRO program and continuing it. And just the last ask, kind of not related to the MOU, so bear with me, is can the data from the subcommittee survey be published on the website? I know we diverted staff attention from it when the override happened, but those results never got posted on the subcommittee page.
I can look back and see what we have. You mind emailing me that list too? Thank you.
Other comments, questions from the committee? No. Okay, so I'll echo what Peter just said. If you do, we've got a couple days where I would really appreciate any feedback to be sent to the committee in writing. Members of the public are also welcome to send feedback to the committee in writing, and we'll take those into account, and then we will have this vote at our next meeting. Okay, moving on. District and superintendent goals. No, I'm sorry, I missed school committee goal update. So Yanchin and I will be meeting this weekend to discuss putting together the events calendar. We are signed up to participate in Oktoberfest in West Acton. We're also signed up to be present at Diwali Fest in Boxborough in October. And so, again, members of the public, members of the committee, any other public events, weekends, nights, please send them to us. We do want to show up and be present and be available. And once Yanchin and I get sort of the list of activities done, we'll bring that back to the committee. As Peter mentioned, inside the new school committee platform, the calendar there will hold events that are school committee meetings, school committee subcommittee meetings, and also our public outreach events. So we'll make sure that that's a single place where people can go and see where they can engage with us as a committee. Any other, you okay, Andrew? Okay, I'm sorry. Any other opportunities folks have had in the past week or two to engage with the public? Any feedback that you've heard around school openings, around, wow, we haven't had anything about transportation, which is absolutely amazing considering what it was 3 years ago. Not yet, thanks. Yeah, Tori.
Just some good feedback about the task force invitation to apply that went out. There are people who are excited, especially people who don't necessarily have direct ties into the school but are important members in the community that want to be part of the process. So, thumbs up.
Great.
I just want to say that I was at this, the shelter in Acton every week during the summer with a member of the select board. And the kiddos were thrilled to come back to school, if that says anything about our district. But just wanted to remind folks that they are still here and still part of our community.
Thank you. All right, any feedback from the committee around our school committee engagement goal? Everyone have access to the documents so far. I will, again, offer if anyone has questions about either the specifics of the material, please feel free to email Peter or myself. And if you have questions about how do we access or how do we make sense of some of the materials that we're seeing in front of us, history of goals, all of those things, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share some of that. And if you're not discussing or deliberating on topics in front of the school committee you are more than welcome to speak to one other member of the committee and say, hey, what happened 3 years ago when Peter decided to make this goal or what have you. That's absolutely fine. Great. Peter, now it's time for a quick reminder of the district and superintendent goals, and it looks like we'll be voting on those tonight.
Thanks, Adam. So the goals for the year are in your packet. Gabby, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot because I think your team just took a look at some of the feedback that we heard at the last meeting and made, a couple of updates to that. Do you mind just sharing a high-level overview of that?
Yeah, happy to. So we refined some of the language around specificity with measurement tools specifically that were offered from feedback from the committee, so thank you for that. And specifically the opportunity to progress monitor through feedback surveys from faculty and staff. That was always the intent, but it was actually a really nice intentionalization to put that into print. So that was really helpful. I think that summarizes it, Peter. I think the specific measurement was where we reconvened and tightened up that language a little bit.
Excellent. I will ask if there are any questions or comments on the goals or entertain a motion to approve the district and superintendent goals as presented.
So moved.
I would like to make the motion that we accept the goals.
So, second.
Sure. So we'll give that to Ben for his formality, and I'll give it to Ginny because she was the fastest to second it the first time around. Is there any last discussion on superintendent goals? Seeing none, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you. All right. Tower Co. cell phone tower memo. So we have the lease agreement in our memo. This is our second read. Clearly, we've gotten some input since we met the first time, and so I am ready to open this topic up for discussion from the committee. Vikram.
I think we should not have a vote tonight. I think there's a lot of research we need to do. I think the public needs to be notified in such a way that they're okay with this. Things that I'm reading, I have some trepidation, so I really think it's prudent to do due diligence on this, because numerous peer-reviewed studies have shown that there are some impacts, and I think we really need to investigate those. I mean, we're having pennies in the dollar with $3,000 a month as a pittance compared to, putting all of our children's health at risk, including us. Do you feel comfortable sitting next to a cell tower that's 20 feet away from us every Thursday? I kind of don't. No, a cell tower is very different. I work in IT, so I'm very familiar with this kind of stuff.
Thanks. It was asked earlier whether anybody over here has done our research regarding this, and I recognize it's a random topic to have a level of experience with. In a previous life, I led the research for a 10,000 store national retail chain to bring wireless data into our stores. Our options included Wi-Fi networks, signal repeaters, potential 5G compact mini cells. I know this space. The studies are all over the place, and there's meta-research that can be pulled to show any kind of results. Sometimes the results are done by the cell phone companies to show everything's perfect. Sometimes they're done by people who are concerned that 5G is going to operate the RNA inside your COVID vaccine and make sure that you turn into a monster. It's all over the place. Consensus is that radio frequency activity that goes outside the volumetric radius from the top of a tower to about 300 to 500 meters is a safe distance. At that point, RF is a baseline risk, same as if you were anywhere else in the world, same as if you were on Route 2. The tower would be placed at the edge of the parking lot, just over there. And it's a good distance from the high school, it's a good distance from the elementary schools, from the middle school. It's not going to be next to or aligned to things that are happening every day. You're not above them, you're far enough away. With that in mind, why do we need to add a cell tower to this community? Acton has terrible connectivity. The poor connectivity is exacerbated by the number of people who need to use this connectivity. Vikram, as I'm sure you know, because of the way that cell phones work, the more people, the more cell phones, the lower level of connectivity exists because of the way that all these little radios we have in our pockets suck up data. Many cells have a limited range and limited capacity. Signal repeaters can only repeat a signal if it can be received, and Wi-Fi has a limited range, high cost, and is reliant on other high bandwidth networks. Where the teachers union spoke to the need for our faculty and our staff to stay connected to their families, and the students spoke of the need for alternative connectivity for classwork, there's a deeper issue here that we need to keep in mind. This week we saw another school shooting. Another situation where some families, cell phones were their only and last connection to their kids, the last connection they had to know what was going on. We had the lockdown in school last year. Kids inside the school could not get out to their families. So BYOD, bring your own device, bring your own data. It allows anyone to maintain the connections they need, to maintain it when they need to connect. And it's important to recognize what our issues are. RF exposure can be harmful, but that harm is mitigated by distance. Alternatives are more expensive, less reliable, and less effective than a new cell tower. And providing connectivity to our staff, to our faculty, to our students, it's table stakes for being a modern community. I actually do support us voting on this today. I think it's an important step for us. It's not the $3,000, it's the hundreds of students that we have that we got to keep in mind. Thanks.
I have a question. So I assume, Peter, you received the students' petition, right? I already made up my mind what I'm going to vote for if we're going to vote today. And again, I'm in support of voting it tonight. We raised this generation to speak their mind, to advocate for themselves. I just want to know that how do we continue on with supporting them to speak up, and we do answer them.
I would have to look back at the history, but I do believe I actually replied to the petition. It's possible that that didn't happen, but I believe I do. So I'm not 100% sure. I'll certainly look at that, and I have that on my takeaway list. But I think one of the challenges of advocacy too, is that when you advocate a position, you also have to understand that others might have different positions at some point too. We want our kids to advocate, but we also recognize that, in advocacy comes, 2 potential outcomes, or sometimes 3 or 4 potential outcomes.
So I also did some reading, and I found that this issue is complex. I would love to see the full text version of the 2022 meta-analysis. My alumni access only allowed me the preview. But I was able to also look at a 2016 one that I think is worth looking at, because what struck me about it, and I invite the students to look at this one too, is it looked at the research methods. And what I found interesting is that it commented that when you looked at research methods and you looked at something that was double-blind, but people didn't know what you were looking at, they found that a lot of the research they did didn't show an effect. In fact, they found that that was the difference between whether it showed an effect, was whether we knew what we were talking about. And so that's something interesting. I think what that tells us is this is complicated. There's a lot we don't know about this because there hasn't been a well-designed study to really evaluate it. Pretty much everything that's out there is flawed in some way. And so, I think that brings us to, one, what's the problem we're trying to solve? That's my favorite question, right? But the problem we're trying to solve is making sure that our district leaders have the tools they need to be able to find out what's going on when things are unexpected, and to be able to make good decisions and get the information out so that people know what to do. And that's especially in a time when we may not have power. So understanding that there are some alternatives, but we need to look at something that is going to be available to them. I don't think it's acceptable to have to expect your superintendent to go walk up and down Charter Road to get cell signal to figure out what's going on and make decisions. That's not okay. We need to fix that. How we fix it is another question, and I think Andrew shared some really useful thought there that distance matters, right? There is science behind that. So we need to figure out where to put this thing to make it as safe as possible, and also get the result that we need, which is a known risk right now. We don't have communications that are reliable, and I don't think that's an acceptable risk to take.
Just, one point of clarity, because I know the question came up earlier. We have installed a repeater actually in my office next to my desk. We've already tried that. It operates, and it has a universal power supply attached to it, so when we lose power, it tries to do that. But it's one of those things that if the quality of the signal isn't high enough, it's just not doing anything. So we certainly tried that first, and we've done that in a number of places around the district to try and boost signal, but it's not having the impact that we want it to.
In my capacity as a municipal council, I've been in so many planning board meetings whenever there's a cell tower to be located. And, it's always the same discussion. There are fears of the unknown. The cell phone tower company always say it's 100% safe. I honestly never know what to believe, and have always been grateful that I wasn't the decision maker, but just the legal counsel. So I honestly, I think, obviously the communications issue is a really big problem. It's a really big problem, but are we, from the materials I saw from the cell phone company and the land lease, they say, American Cancer Society, they give you a couple things to Google. But, that's general information, not specific information. And, what Andrew is saying may be 100% correct. I can't even turn on my own TV. So I'm not going to try to analyze this on my own. But have they given us assurances that this is safe? Are those trustworthy? What information do we have about this specific proposal relative to safety for everybody that's going to be around it? I know we're not going to have like 100% guarantee, but are there any, legitimate, serious fears about this or not?
Well, I don't ever want to say a fear is illegitimate, right? So, I think we're in a position, we can certainly go out, and it won't be TowerCo that provides that information, because TowerCo is actually the person that constructs the tower. But Verizon is right now identified as the partner provider. We can ask Verizon to provide more information, but they're going to provide the information that the cell phone, we talked about that already, right? The cell phone company is going to present a set of information that they agree with, and people who don't want it can find the set of information that disagrees with it. And I think that's one of the challenges of where we're at right now. I don't think we're going to get more information. I heard the health impact study come through on the public comment. I don't know what a health impact study would look like for something like this. If there's no definitive data now, Acton is not going to conclude something different.
Real quickly, while I do support this measure, especially concerning the lack of robust communications in the area, do we have any additional information and/or controls in place to ensure that these towers operate within a safe and controlled limit in order to protect the well-being of our students and staff here?
Well, I think the answer, is the FCC does provide limits on, the radio frequency transmissions, and the cell phone towers do operate within those limits. Now, I know we heard disagreement from community members with those limits, but that is the safeguard that's in place currently. And my understanding of the cell phone technology is it's not yet approaching the upper limit of the FCC regulations.
Before we circle back to people who've already spoken, Leela has an opportunity, and then I want to say something, and then we'll do second comments around. Leela?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again to the students for coming up. I have been young years ago, and it's not the most fun thing. The second piece was my question around, is there a financial and or contractual consequence of pushing this vote a meeting related to this contract?
That was going to be my question too, which is what is our timeline like? When do we need to make the decision by? Obviously, the longer we wait, the longer we're without connectivity, but where are we in the negotiations with TowerCo?
I actually would defer to maybe Brendan is here. Brendan works in our facilities department. He also formerly worked in the tech department. So Brendan, do you know any limits? I don't know of anything in particular. I think TowerCo is just waiting for us to decide if we want to proceed with the project. I know there's also, even after it goes through school committee, there's, you know, zoning decisions and things permitting that there are processes in place for that too.
Right, correct. So I suppose there's always a risk the longer we kick it down the road, the more time they might have to find another site. That's always a possibility. But from what we were learning in our initial phase, there weren't a lot of viable sites locally. So as far as I know, we don't have a specific time limitation other than what you've noted before. They did inform us that typically from a signed lease agreement to an actual online tower, it's usually close to a year. So before stuff is fully up and running.
Thanks, Brennan. So Leela, that was definitely one of my questions as well. Is there a clock ticking on this? And you know, I am of two minds on this. One is particularly after what happened yesterday. I'm super nervous, and as the person who receives the broken up phone calls from the superintendent after I get the text, which is, do you have a minute, can I call now? It's super scary to then have a broken phone conversation about an issue that's happening on campus, knowing full well that I can't do anything about it anyway, and you all can't do anything about it, but as the chair of the school committee, inevitably someone is going to then call me and say, do you know what's going on? And granted, there's limited information I'll be able to share, but to be able to have that and to be able to say, I'm aware of what's going on, for me is a peace of mind, and it's really hard to be able to have those conversations with Peter when the connectivity isn't there. Equally, you know, I don't see this as a money-making venture for our district. The $3,000 a month is a pittance. It is really about the safety and security of the district. But I also, again, I want to thank the students who so artfully came up and spoke against this. I don't want to discount that, and I don't want to discount the concerns of the community. So I'm torn. I wonder, though, as we as a committee think about this, is there information? We've got questions out. You know, is there additional information that any of us are going to get between now and even a month from now that might change your vote? We've heard over and over again that any of the scientific information is inconclusive. What we'll get, excuse me, there's no more public participation. This is a conversation for the committee at this point. What we'll get is continued public input, and we'll probably hear more of it on both sides, which will again be, like the data, inconclusive. So, you know, I think we need to, around the table here, decide whether or not there's going to be any additional information that we'll get that would change our vote, and decide whether or not we're going to vote tonight, or we do have the opportunity to come back and say, we want some more information and we'll vote it at another meeting. So, yeah.
You know, the other thing you might also say is, you know, we might not feel like right now we think we're going to get more information, but you might also think that we want to make sure this is publicized more and that people are more aware of it before we take a vote so that people can send comment and chime in. You know, that just so that the community has a better understanding of it before you vote on it. So I just want to add that may be a legitimate piece to consider as well.
Thank you, yeah. All right, Yanshin, then Vikram, and then anybody on this side who's got an additional comment.
I'm going to make it really quick. So there are no other way to solve that connectivity problem, right? Other than the cell tower?
Brendan, do you mind speaking to that? So the question was, is there, could you know of other ways to solve the connectivity problem other than some kind of a cell tower?
Yeah, so I think Andrew spoke to some of that. We've explored BDA, that's sort of a repeater type system. We've explored what they call a DAS, which resembles pretty closely a Wi-Fi network with access points. It rides through the network. Most of those solutions we would be on the hook to cover. When we were building Boardwalk, it wasn't open. I think we saw something, you know, very rough numbers at $500,000, and it wasn't even, it was single carrier specific. So I think we were looking at exclusively Verizon. So any other carrier, you'd be out of luck. and that was just one building. So yeah, so we have looked at some other options, and nothing's been terribly viable.
So my point here is that even the Cancer Society says that there's really not really any conclusive evidence, but other things are saying that there does seem to be something there, and it does seem that proximity does come into play. And my point is that making a vote tonight is sort of jumping the gun before the public obviously is very nervous about this thing being put in place. So I think what we need to do is have conversations with the community to placate the community, to show that this is in fact not really going to be dangerous at all. Or that if it is, it's going to be very, very minor danger, you know, if anything at all. But I think the thing is, I think the public is very, very nervous about this, and us suddenly making a vote tonight on it, when obviously people are very distressed by this, would be really a bad thing to do.
I just don't want us to overgeneralize the public as the people who show up. Often it is not representative, and it might be, but I just don't want us to overgeneralize. Is this cell tower subject to Board of Health approval after this?
I don't know the permitting process. I would suspect it certainly would be like a zoning approval process. I'm not sure if it's Board of Health. Brendan, do you know if it's a Board of Health process? I don't know. Ginny, yeah, I don't think so. You don't believe it is?
Is there a public official who might have some knowledge about this in the room? I'm wondering. Hi, David, if you could.
Hi, I'm David Martin. I'm on the Select Board. The Board of Health has jurisdiction, among other things, over hazardous materials. I don't think there's any hazardous materials here, so I don't think so. It would be the normal building and planning permissions.
Diesel generator. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew.
I don't think that a diesel generator requires a hazardous materials permit.
Just real quick, a lot of the things we talked about, a lot of the questions that we've had are questions that everybody has around this, like Ginny was saying. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of towers put up around the country. This one's our responsibility, and we have to be clear with the decisions we make. But those thousands of towers around the country are governed by the same things that govern our other transmission wires, that govern the way that we have, you know, free on use, that governs the way we have everything else inside of our country that has to do with public use. This is something that is managed by the FCC to ensure that the cell phones work, and it's managed by the town to make sure things work, and you're not going to have the same problems that you could think of as it being like improperly constructed, because the company that's doing it has their living based on the ability to construct these things properly. So I think there's a lot of stuff that you can throw around in being uncomfortable with it, about uncertainty and fear and doubt, but I don't necessarily know if it's reality simply because of the fact that this is a business that's been in place for a long time, that's been putting these things up. I don't particularly care which tower company it is. There's standards they have to keep up to. And with regard to the Board of Health thing, most of the problem we've had with the Board of Health in the schools has to do with the batteries that I won't mention over the boardwalk. But FCC, Board of everything is going to take care of the regulations around this to ensure that we're safe.
All right, so I hear two sides here. One is that we want to postpone this, table this, and either potentially get some more information or at a minimum get more opportunities for the community to provide feedback. The challenge that I see, and I will give to you, Vikram, is we have public meetings. 2 weeks ago we had a public meeting and a public presentation on this, and we can have another 2-week break. I don't know, other than sending something out in our limited capacity to the families of the district to say, hey, we're proposing a cell phone tower, do you have any input? We're not going to get, I think, much more public input than what we've gotten now, and this is significant public input for our school committee. So I just question, again, will we get more information that might change how people vote between now and next week? That being said, I am all in favor of what's the word I'm looking for? Public discussion and being open for additional input. So we have two options. We can take a motion to table this item till our next meeting, or we can take a motion to vote it. Yeah.
I just want to say regarding the FCC, a federal appeals court ordered the FCC to revisit the issue. They're ordered to do a study. The Trump administration shut it down from 1996. They were ordered by an appeals court to do it, and it's been 6 years, and the FCC has not taken any formal action to revisit that study. Just want that to be very clear. So the FCC says this and that. The Trump administration shut down a study, and they did not start it back up, even though they've been ordered to by an appeals court. So that should also be noted. There's a lot of money behind cell towers. You know, people make oodles of money off this stuff. So they're going to say it's A-OK when a lot of times it's not. And I don't know if I'd want my kid sitting in a classroom right outside a cell tower.
Thank you. All right, I'm happy to entertain a motion for whomever wants to make one.
I make a motion to table this for further discussion.
Is there a second?
Can we specify when we're coming back to this?
We could. You could make a friendly amendment to the motion to specify a date. Our next meeting is September 19th.
Can I make a friendly amendment to table it until September 19th, 2024?
Seconded.
Well, you have to accept the friendly amendment.
I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, so now there's a motion on the table to table this topic until our next meeting, which is September 19th. Is there a second for that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Tori.
So back to our students again. I appreciate the information you've shared and the things that were sent to us. It caused me to look into this more deeply. I'm also comfortable voting tonight. I can also wait till the 19th, but I'm ready to vote.
Sorry, I'm preparing for a vote tally, and since we don't have diligent, I can't do the vote tally there. Leela, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, yes, public input is important. I suspect most people like me are entirely unqualified to make a determination. But I feel like there has to be, and I'm not smart enough to know, someone who is relatively unbiased, who does this more full-time than I do, related to cell towers, who does not work for a cell tower company. And so I guess that is what I would like to do in the next 2 weeks. Not necessarily, I mean, people can send in emails. I'm happy to read them. But I think that's what I'm looking for.
So you're looking for us to engage with a
Peer review consultant?
in 2 weeks with no budget? Just to lay it out honestly.
Can you repeat the no budget part?
You were in this room all last year, right?
Oh, I understand. I mean, I'm also happy to do some of that. I'm not necessarily directing anyone. I'm just saying, yes, public input is welcome, and I think many of us are unqualified to make this determination.
Okay. Vikram?
I would like to say that I leave it up to you, the public, to provide us information that we can parse over the next few weeks before the next meeting, when we actually will have a vote on this topic, right? But I think all of us on the school committee need to be more deeply informed about this and both the pros and the cons in a way that we're currently not. So we leave it up to you, the public, to provide us that data.
All right. We're still in the discussion of the motion that's on the table, which is to table this until our next meeting. Andrew, you have some comment.
Briefly regarding research, this is a surprisingly political point of view. Thank you again, folks, for all the work you've done on this, for the care and concern that you have. And Jennifer, thank you for the email that you sent and the information that you're asking questions about. As I'm sure you've seen in the research you've done, there's a lot that will promote one side, and there's a lot that will promote the other side. And there are many people that are going to take their point of view and use that as a filter for the data that they're seeing. And it's difficult to look objectively at this because there's so much subjective data that's out there. A lot of it's inconclusive, a lot of it is profit-driven. when it comes down to it, there's some just physics you can apply to this that will define the safety levels of where these things are. And there's physics, and then there's the results of having these things near people. If we want to do a research project over the next 2 weeks, let's assign a couple of people and pull it together. It can't be just give us information from the outside. It's got to be driven from the committee or from an expert we can bring into the committee. And I'm happy to postpone this. I think it's important for people to know what we're getting into. But it's important for you to know what we're getting into, that the waters of the data that we're talking about are really murky, and there are only certain ways you can find the objective truth inside of it.
Thank you.
I'd like just one quick thing off that.
We need to vote,
There are two types of
please make it
research.
quick.
There's peer-reviewed research, and there's
Vikram.
industry-funded research,
Thank
and
you,
they're
Vikram.
very distinct.
I'm going to make my comment on this, which is, we basically have two options. One is we table this till the future, or we vote on it tonight. And I would point out that if we vote on it tonight and it doesn't pass, it's done. That being said, there's a motion on the table to table. All of those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yay and 2 nay. So the motion passes, and we will table this until our next meeting. Thank you. Before we move on, I want to take a deep breath, and I again want to echo the voice of the committee here and thanking the public and our students for coming and sharing your concerns. Clearly, we've not made a decision, and it still may not fall in your favor, but I hope that you feel like we've had a fruitful discussion here. We've provided some transparency to the committee. What I would ask for you to do is email me with any volunteer, anything that you're volunteering to provide as research for our next meeting. And what I would say is that material needs to be prepared not in 2 weeks, but in a week, so that it can be included in our packet so that both us and the public have an opportunity to read it before we meet next time. So it's not September 19th, but as he looks quickly at his calendar, September 13th, no later than the morning of September 13th. 12th, Thursday? We need it on Thursday.
We need it by the close of business on Thursday
There you
in
go.
order to publish it in the packet for Friday.
There you go. So it's a week from today. Any outside research that you want to provide or look into, please provide that to Julie to include in the packet by the 12th. To Peter.
Yeah, why don't you send this to me so I can figure out how it's going to be compiled for Julie. We don't want to make her have to figure that out.
We already talked about the 150 meetings a year she has to post. I'll point out, school's in session for 180 days, and we have 150 meetings we need to post. All right, thank you, everybody. Moving on, we're almost done here. We've got our consent agenda, which is not a consent agenda because there's only one item on that. So we have in front of us the approval of our meeting minutes of 8/22. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 8/22 or any comments or edits on those?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Vikram moved to approve the minutes and Tori seconded it. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. That is unanimous. Thank you. I shall cover for us tonight. So, I move that the school committee vote to approve the below listed warrants totaling $4,375,693.57. AP vendor warrant as follows: 25-004B dated 8/22/2024 in the amount of $2,900,484.81. 25-005A dated 8/29/2024 in the amount of $563,657.7 cents. Payroll vendor warrant as follows: 25-004PR dated 8/22/2024 in the amount of $234,222.07. And payroll warrant as follows: P2504 dated 8/22/2024 in the amount of $677,329.62.
Seconded.
Ben was the loudest there. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That is also unanimous. Peter, anything in the FYI we want to highlight?
No, just that it's there, and you're welcome to look.
FYI.
Yeah.
And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
moved. Second.
Move to adjourn.
Tori, Ben, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.